I'm standing in one of our main compost piles, and to me, as far as regenerative farming practices, I think this is the most important. Hi, I'm Todd Vincent, the Fermented Farmer, here at our homestead farm in Middle Tennessee to talk to you about regenerative farming practices. So as you can tell from my attire, winter is here, but farming work doesn't stop. And so even in the winter, we are constantly thinking and doing things that are regenerative on our farm because we're trying to grow the most healthy plants possible. Well, one of those things happens in this pile. I know this just looks like a lot of debris and dirt and soil, and it is. But what's happening in here, this is one of our main compost piles that we use. In this pile, we have all of our old plant material or plants that we've harvested, and the stalks come in here that we don't use possibly, old potting soil and mix that we've had. What we're trying to do, what we are doing, is actually bringing more and more biology, breaking this down, using what we have to create a media that our plants will grow in, and bringing nutrition to these plants that is surpassing anything I've ever seen. Because guess what? It really does start with the soil. A lot of people, a lot of farmers, and me included over the years, have spent a lot of time and money feeding the plants, thinking about what are the plant's needs. And I understand that, and there is some of that to a degree. But what I'm finding out is, if we'll spend more time, more of our attention feeding the soil, which we're really feeding the organisms in the soil, they do all the work. They break down everything we need them to break down and then divvy out the macro and micronutrients to these plants. It's so similar to our own gut biome. When we consume food and nutrition and we don't have a good bacteria in our body, it's wasted. But when our gut biome is full of good, healthy, active bacteria, they do the work for us. They break all of the things we're eating down, and they start divvying out all of those nutrients so that we can absorb them in a way that's beneficial for our bodies. And so here at Fermented Farmer, all of our products are grown in media that we treat like this. Media that we're bringing bacteria to. Media that we are working and constantly trying to improve so that we have the healthiest plants known. Then we ferment them, which is another level of bringing out good bacteria, good nutrition, and expanding that nutrition. And then you get to consume it and enjoy all of that. So I'm going to show you a couple things that we're doing. I've got a smoldering bucket over here of wood ash. And we do a lot of burn-offs here. And I always wondered, and we're going to show you in this video, some areas of a field that we cleared and did some burning and the results of that. And if you've ever seen a burn-off, it always comes back really green. And I wasn't always sure why. Well, after further study and research, when you take wood and burn that wood, it releases phosphorus, nitrogen, sulfur, all things that the microbes need to live. And then the microbes get food and start doing their thing, and the products, the plants that grow there flourish. When plants are growing at a rapid pace, when plants are flourishing, guess what they do best? Sequester carbon. Carbon sequestering is kind of the number one thing that plants do, whether that's grazing grasses, trees, and what's the one thing we need to do on this earth? We need to clean the atmosphere. And I believe that farming is the number one thing that can clean the atmosphere. It's probably the biggest regenerative farming practice that we can do. But again, it goes back to having good microbes in the soil to even get your plants to flourish so that they'll sequester carbon out of the atmosphere, put it in the soil where it's needed, and then the plants benefit from that carbon in the soil. So I'm gonna pour some of these ashes on. I'm gonna jump into the skid steer. We're gonna mix this pile up, and you'll probably see some steam and all kind of stuff going on. But that's part of the maintenance program that we do on our compost piles. These are actually still hot and fresh, so I'm gonna get them buried. And some of the things that this will do is not only will it add that layer of micro and macronutrients I was talking about, it also is a pH balancer. So this is bringing some alkalinity, ash. This ash will bring an alkalinity to this pile so it won't get too acidic. So it's very balancing. And Mother Nature does this all the time. When you see, a lightning strike or a wildfire or prairie grass fire, even though those can be destructive in areas where there are people and animals, what comes back after a fire is beautiful. And this is part of that reason. So if you had smell-o-vision, it's amazing. All the different material that we throw in this pile, you would think would have a bad odor. It really doesn't. This smells like what you would think of a fresh plowed field, that soil, that earthy smell. It doesn't smell rotting, and it shouldn't smell rotting. So a properly composting compost pile should have that earthy smell. Just like fermented foods, there's rotting foods and fermenting foods, and they smell totally different. So this is part of that. So now we're gonna go over and I wanna show you our blackberry patch and some of the burn-off techniques that we do there. Again, that's gonna bring a level of nutrition to the leaves that we use and the berries that we use to make our products. It's gonna make it off the chart. So let's go over and check that out. So here we are at our blackberry patch at our farm, and we've done a burn-off. And so what happens here is all of this is from this season's blackberry grow. And those of you that have grown blackberries in the winters, when you come in and cut out all the old cane and kind of get it ready for the next season. So what I've found over the last few seasons, a lot of grasses and weeds will grow up in through here through the season. If I do a burn off like this down these rows, and then I'll come in and clip all of these and clean them up, the next year's blackberries are usually sweeter, larger, and they put on way more growth than they did the years that I didn't do this. And again, we're just burning a lot of grasses and weeds, and we're releasing all of their nutrients. And that's what we're seeing happen. It's simple. Of course, you have to be careful. You're working with fire, but it's something that works and works well. And it's not a new thing. This has been around for a long time. So remember, Fermented Farmer, we are on a mission to change your diet, to change your life, and to change your world. And we're doing that with practices like regenerative farming. And I've showed you today a couple of ours, and I believe there are a couple of main ones that are super important to do. It's feeding those microbes in your soil. So I want to encourage you to start thinking about what can you do at your garden, at your farm, that can start this process to bring that level of nutrition to your plants. Because ultimately, if we're all doing that, it's helping the environment. It's helping our health. It really is helping our world. So thank you.